Mr. Kraft.
Thank you for that kind introduction. This is great looking out here today, seeing all of you coming here to honor our guy there. But uh, as I thank everyone here coming today, the real special thanks goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Why? Well, a trade with the Ravens in '03 gave us the first pick in the '04 draft overall. And of course, with that draft pick, we picked our guy Vince.
Boa!
And actually, I think there's a little karma there that we're playing Baltimore tomorrow, too. So, in the next 11 years after he got drafted, Vince anchored a defensive unit that helped propel the Patriots to 10 division titles, 6 AFC championships, 4 trips to the Super Bowl, and 2 great parades in downtown Boston. You know, there are a lot of really big players who
Troféus, cara,
battle in the
maravilhoso,
trenches
velho.
in the NFL. But few have ever had the combined size, strength, quickness, and overall athletic ability as Vince. As a nose tackle in a two-gap scheme, Vince's role was to draw double teams in order to free up the linebackers behind him. It was a thankless job, but one in which the likes of Teddy Bruschi and our friend Gerard Mayo, who's here today, we're forever grateful. You know, as you saw in the highlights film, Vince just didn't tackle enemy ball carriers. He steamrolled them. And as much as we enjoyed watching him punish an opposing quarterback, there was nothing for me that was more entertaining than watching opponents trying to tackle Vince when he returned an interception or a fumble. And he might have been a little bigger in those days when he was doing it.
Oh.
So clearly, Vince made an immediate impact on the field and left a lasting impression, typically in the chest of his opponents. And that, of course, is the reason we're all here today. But I want to share a more personal anecdote about Vince and the first impression he made upon me. I met Vince right after he was drafted in '04. A big-bodied, fresh-faced, first-round draft choice out of the U. He was only 23, but had an old soul. He was already married and grounded by the unfortunate experience of losing both of his parents 2 years before, David and Barbara. He arrived in my office wearing a black dress shirt with a large gold dress medallion draped around his neck. David and Barbara's wedding photo was on the medallion. Vince said it kept his loved ones close to his heart and gave him strength by wearing it, and he wore it every day. That gesture alone earned Vince a place in the Kraft family Hall of Fame, and he became one of our all-time favorites.
Aê!
On a game day, when Vince was leaving the field after warm-ups, he saw my beloved Mara and leaned in to give her a kiss on her cheek. In an endearing and yet slightly awkward moment, he gave me one as well. So we won the game that day. And not that I'm superstitious, but that started a new tradition. And when he gave those kisses, he might have been perspiring a little.
Ainda bem que ele é velho e fala devagar.
Years
Mano. Senão não
later,
entender porra nenhuma.
when Myra's health was declining in 2011, Vince gave me a special gift, a gold medallion with Myra and my wedding picture on it. And you have to understand, I don't wear rings or jewelry of any kind, but I love the sentiment. No player had ever done anything like that for me before. So I put it on and showed Myra at her bedside. She happened to be in intensive care in the hospital in Boston. And she said to me, "You look ridiculous." As usual, she was right, of course.
Ainda bem que ele comprou, mano. Ele chegou e comprou.
But it kept her close to my heart and gave me strength. And after she passed, I wore it every day for nearly a year.
Oh, come on, man. Que foda.
So the first game after Myra's passing, I was an emotional wreck. But Vince sought me out as he left the field after warm-ups. This time he gave me a kiss on each cheek. And he said, one was for you and the other was for Mama. And it was the start of a tradition that continued prior to every game for the next 4 seasons. I will always be grateful to Vince for doing that. Now, Patriot fans will remember Vince for his big body, even bigger smile, and always making the biggest plays. For a decade of Patriots dominance, no defender played a bigger role, both literally and figuratively, than Vince Wilfork. Vince gave us all many memorable moments in which we could all be thankful. But the greatest came on Thanksgiving against our friends, the Jets. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
More than Indianapolis, the offensive coordinator, they're going to bust a play here, and then Jennings changes
Watch this. Vince Wilfork is going to throw Brandon Moore back into his quarterback. He's going to fumble the football. This is what Reggie White used to do.
Woohoo! Que foda!
In a word, Wilfork was simply invincible. I'm honored to present Vince with his red jacket, and it's only a matter of time, hopefully, before he gets a gold one, which he truly deserves. It's my pleasure to introduce the 32nd member of the Patriots Hall of Fame, Vince Wilfork.
Ah, vem aí, que foda! Nossa, velho. Negão podia jogar ainda, hein, mano.
I am very honored to be standing here before all of you guys today at being able to be a Patriot Hall of Fame. As a player, I never really thought about being a Hall of Famer. You know, my goal was always playing football on the game I love. But to understand who I am, you have to understand my journey. When I first got drafted, right? Something funny. Here we go.
Que foda.
So I'm at the draft and back home, and they was like, okay, the New England Patriots select Vince Wilfork, University of Miami. So I'm sitting here saying, New England, is that like the new part of England? I have to travel out of the country to go play? Like, where is New England? And they were like, no, it's Boston Celtics. Boston. I said, oh yeah, all you have to do is just say Boston. I'm okay, I know that. So, but here I am, a Southern boy that's never really traveled much. The only traveling I did was playing football in college, and we in and out. So I had no clue where New England was. I know Boston, Massachusetts, but New England, I'm like, okay, whatever. So I got acquainted real quick. But, since I was 4 or 5 years old, I told my father what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a professional football player. That was my goal. That's just what it was. There was nothing else. That's what I wanted to do. So I only played one year of football because after that I was either too big or too young. So it's like, what was the next best thing for me to do was to play basketball. And that's what I did. I played basketball, became a really pretty good basketball player. But even as I did that, I had issues at home where my father's sick. Just imagine being 8, 9, 10 years old where you have to carry your father to the restroom because he's too weak to walk himself. And I'm a kid. But it didn't matter to me. My father needed help. Mom needed help. This is what we do. Or imagine being 11, 12 years old and your grandmother is dead in your arms. And you have to take her in the car to get her home because we can't call the ambulance. Or imagine being 13 years old, coaching 10-year-old basketball, a head coach at 13. Yeah, me, a head coach, 13 years old, coaching basketball. And here I go, still, family struggling. I had a lot of family members turn their backs on us. It was holidays I didn't have, my family we didn't have. We had to figure out how we was going to eat and survive as a kid. But through all of that, I stayed true to who I was. I played sports. It was basketball. When I got to high school, that was my first time playing football since I was 4 or 5 years old. That was my first time going back playing. I started as a freshman on the varsity. I was a defensive end. I was 275 pounds in high school. That was my freshman year. Sophomore year, I'm 308 pounds. Yeah, so grown man. But with all of that, still, my father was still suffering. Mother out of work. My family had to figure it out. So I went through high school, and my father, probably the toughest man I ever known. Because back then I didn't understand what he was going through. I just saw, I got to do what I had to do. But I never understood how bad diabetes was back then. And, my father always like, listen, we don't want you do it. You be a kid. He always wanted me to be a kid. You live your life. Don't worry about me. I'm okay. But guess what? Every practice, and I have my brother up here. Right? He'll tell you every practice, my father was there. I would leave the locker room, go get him out the car, roll him in a wheelchair to the practice field, go back in with my team, and then I come back out to practice. When practice was up, I would roll him back to the car, get him in the car. He wait for me to finish doing what I had to do, and we go home. That's what I did daily. Because my father never wanted to miss an opportunity to see his son play football. But I did that freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. Rolled my father to practice, got him out of the car, took him to the practice field, brung him back with practice, brung him back to it,
Hey!
take my stuff off, and we go home. But I know how much it meant to my father to be there. I knew that. I knew how much love he had for football. My mom loved it too, but my mom was the one. She was like, oh, whatever, I'll see you at the game. And so she supported me. I'm not saying that, but my father, why I'm built the way that I'm built, I had to survive. I had to learn how to survive at a very young age. No one never gave me anything, nothing. Everything I got, I worked for. I worked for. I grind, I put the time in. I never got any handouts. Ever. And here it is. I lose my parents. Lose my parents, 20 years old, my father, day before my mother's birthday, June 5th, 02. My mother's birthday, June 6th. My mama have a birthday. My first game I ever missed in college. Around my birthday time, I got a call. They had to rush my mother to the hospital. We was getting ready to go play the Tennessee Bowls. They rushed my mother to the hospital. My mother passed December 16th, 6 months later. I turned 21, then I lose my mother before Christmas, December 16th. So here you go, a kid that really never much had a family. The only family I had was what I had in my house. Now they're gone. And at that time, my daughter was about to be born, my first child, no parents. And in that moment, I quit football. I quit. I gave it up because the only reason I wanted to play was to have a better living for my parents, get them out, let them enjoy life with all the struggles, with all the surviving. Like, that's the only reason I wanted them to play football. It wasn't for me. It was for my mom and my dad. So it was easy for me to walk away from it and say, screw it. It didn't matter. But I thank God for my defensive line coach at the University of Miami. He set me down and he basically said, you do what your parents wanted you to do. And I said, I'll think about it. Really didn't care. But the more I thought about it, the more I came to my senses and I picked back up my career. Fast forward, I get drafted, 21st pick, I come to New England. One of the best decisions that RKK made, Bill Belichick made. Oh, yeah. But at the same time, I was still missing my mother and my father. I can't tell you how many times I left the practice field or left a game tore up inside. I get a chance to walk past my teammates and have their families, their mom, their dad, their brothers, their sisters, their wives. They have a good time, And I'm hurt inside because I don't have my mother and father here to enjoy this life with me. And I felt that way for 13 years. I played 13 years in the league. So for 13 years, I had to battle that. For 13 years, I put a smile on when I was really hurt. But nobody would ever knew. They would never know. But I can sit here today and tell you, for 13 years, I played hurt with a heavy heart. I played with a broken heart. I played with a heart in my hole for 13 years. And that's just in the NFL. So when you look at who the person I am, what I've accomplished, you guys are not fans to me.